Welcome to the Your Life After Tech podcast. This is episode 2. I'm Debbie Levitt. Don't forget to check out our lifeaftertech.info multiverse, including our book, Discord community, coaching, and more. Because you might be done with tech, tech might be done with you, or you're thinking about adding non-tech work to your tech career. Today's guest is Danielle Malik, DanielleMalik, and she is from risingtideresidences.org, risingtideresidences. We'll be talking about her journey through design leadership and through layoffs, and finally landing on a really rewarding business helping those going through difficult transitions. Let's get to know Danielle.
Hello, I am Danielle, and I'm talking to you from the beautiful Bay Area of California. I've lived here for about 20 years, and it's been a pretty fantastic place to forge a tech career in that time. During those 20 years, I've also been a teacher, a mentor, a small business owner, board member, volunteer, politically and professionally, a mother of twins, and a mother of 2 Chihuahuas. I realize that's not a great flex, but they are my babies now, so.
Dogs Mom Unite, yes. Yeah, so I wanted to know more about some of your tech background. I think you said you were working in tech about 20 years. What kinds of things were you doing?
Well, I've had about 20 years in tech as a designer and a design leader, focusing mainly on user experience. And in that time, I've worked mostly in consultancies. One of them was Hot Studio, which was acquired by Facebook, and I did spend some time there, but the majority of my experience professionally has been working on client projects and mostly in the enterprise space. And in my work, I've always kind of gravitated toward complexity. I always like the big, meaty problems to solve. Looking at spaces and subject matter that I think a lot of other people would find dry or uninteresting, but those are the things that I really kind of jump into, the things that break your brain a little bit when you think about it. So I've had great fortune in working in fintech, logistics, healthcare, green energy, industrial monitoring, things like that have been kind of my bread and butter. And then I also took a couple of years and started my first business, and that was also in the design consultancy model. But my company hired only junior designers for mentored projects with nonprofits and early stage startups. So that was a great experience. It eventually needed to kind of get back to making the sort of money I could make in a bigger company, but it was a great experience and also kind of a runway to what I'm doing now in a way.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get there. I wanted to ask, when did you start thinking about shifting toward work outside of tech?
Well, as I got older and matured more in my career, I did become cognizant of the need to kind of future my career. I was starting to see that, as people get older in tech, fewer opportunities become available if you don't choose certain paths. And so I did try and do some diversifying a little bit. I started teaching. I thought was a good way to kind of create some more underpinnings. The thing that I started was squarely in tech, but also had some potential kind of off ramps for me. And so, I also became aware that because of health reasons, sitting behind a computer all day, every day wouldn't be kind of the most beneficial to my long-term health. But I wasn't really actively seeking a career change until I got laid off.
And when was that?
I was laid off, I guess it's almost 2 years ago. So it was January in 2023 when I got laid off.
Okay. So, which came first? You feeling done with tech, or you suspecting that tech was done with you?
Yeah. Well, tech, I would say a little bit of both. As with most industries, design shifts and evolves. I've seen it over my career. Definitely, there's a pretty radical evolution happening lately. I think previously that evolution was happening a little more conventionally, where um, new skills are needed, new tools are being used, and so they need to be learned. New competencies are added to the job description, right? Um, and so, as a professional, you can certainly adapt. Sometimes you get pushed out of your core skills or pushed into areas that maybe aren't quite you're strongest um, where you're strongest. But then also, you can be pushed out of areas that interest you or pushed out of your passion. There's been a lot over time that, maybe wasn't quite as interesting to me, or maybe I actually have been feeling conflicted. I definitely feel conflicted about AI. I think the tech industry, we've already been kind of culpable for so much of the digital addictions that are happening. And I think not terribly good at taking responsibility for our role in there. Um, I always like to work on projects that I felt good about. I felt good, to what I was contributing to. But yeah, it also feels good to kind of shift out of that and feel a little more grounded in that the things that I'm doing have more tangible good. So, I would say Tech and I kind of parted ways on equal terms.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh, look out for the train. I wanted to definitely hear more about what you've been doing and how you got started on that path. So, yeah, bring us more into that story.
Right. So I had been seeing a trainer at a local gym, and she and I became friends. And in addition to her trainers, she also was running a group home business.
Hmm.
And we started talking about collaboration, kind of initially from a real estate investment angle. But the more I learned about what she was doing, more interesting it sounded to me. And at that time, I had just been laid off. I started with her when I was working, but then when I was laid off, I started talking to her a little bit more intently about joining forces. And I feel incredibly lucky to have such a fantastic business partner. We were very well together. As I mentioned, she already had a business doing group homes. And so we started a new one together with a slightly different focus. So our new business together, Rising Tide Residency, um, it focuses more on providing second chance housing. um, I say group homes, but it's actually called supportive housing. This
Okay.
idea that there's kind of a tier needed where people can't quite be out on their own for economic reasons, for mental health reasons, just needing support in general. And there are so many people who we can reach in this way. Supportive housing offers, lower rents for people, a communal setting so that people are getting support. They can maybe cook meals together or lean on each other for kind of logistics, rides, places, things like that. And we've been working with a large variety of social service agencies in the Bay Area, um, and creating relationships and getting referrals for people who need that the services that supportive housing provides. And so we've been working with one of our big targets is reentry, people who are formerly incarcerated, veterans, elderly. We work with transitional age youth, people who are transitioning out of foster care or juvenile detention. And then just a lot of people who are down on their luck, who are kind of locked out of the typical rental market. And so our business is allowing people who have marks against them to find a place and to also gather up that support so they can get back on their feet and start moving forward in life. Housing, as you know, is just such a huge issue kind of all across the US, but especially in the Bay Area of California. And to feel like it's something that we're providing uh, and having some impact, it just feels really great.
So, something that is hopefully more rewarding than previous work.
Well, rewarding in a different way. I mean, I certainly got a lot of reward out of my design career, the people that I mentored, the work that I did that, impacted a lot of people. But this is just a completely different avenue. I mean, as you can imagine, there's been an incredible learning curve from this. I'm working with people in ways that I've never done before. I'm working with different types of people than I've done before. Both, the people on the agency side that we're working with and the residents, um, getting to know them, getting to know the ways that they work. Um, the residents, as we grow and expand, I certainly won't have the opportunity to have, these deep connections with every person who passes through our door. But at this point, I really do have love for every one of those people who stay with us. And, all of their stories are unique. They're all battling difficulties and feeling like you can help someone, um, give them one thing to worry about when things can be so difficult. It really makes me feel good.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful, and thank you so much for what you're doing. I wanted to ask how this type of work matches some of your core personal qualities or your personality traits.
Mhm. Yeah. So, I think that one of the things that never used to be a core quality of me, but is something I've evolved into, is becoming a better listener, and understanding. I think of it as wisdom, and in that way that you know older people know what to say and what not to say, right? When you offer up a point for people to think about, and when you offer up actual advice. And I think that the way that I've learned to relate to people and to help people solve problems has definitely evolved into more of a strength, that I've consciously worked on. Right, it didn't just come about naturally. Um, Once you turn 48, like boom, you got it. No, that's not how it works. Um, I also, um, in my career, a lot of times in the design field, they talk about kind of the synthesizer and the generator, the people who are kind of out there and thinking into the future and coming up with innovative new ideas, and then the people who are more bringing the plane in for a landing, the people who are figuring out the logistics, the operations, like how things are actually going to happen. I have lived in both of those spaces, and I think this is this is another area where I've learned to work with my business partner, Nori, who is definitely a generator and always kind of looking down the road for us. And, even though she's very experienced, my tech background affords me more knowledge of like some tools and shortcuts and technology solutions. And so, fortifying that relationship, being the synthesizer to her generator, to kind of make sure that everything is coming in for a landing, has been something that I had as a skill and is really kind of emphasized and strengthened now as well.
And is she still your personal trainer?
No, I know she wishes it would were different, but we both got very busy, and so I don't see her in that capacity anymore. But she does give me little tips and often inquires about how I'm keeping up on my training.
Very good. When you think about your transition from the design and tech jobs into this new area, is there anything you look back on and feel like was a mistake or something you regret or wish you could do over again?
Um, yes and no. I certainly look back and so I got laid at a time when many people were getting laid off. LinkedIn started to read like an obituary there for a long time, and still continues
Yes.
in the design field, in tech generally. And so the with hindsight, I am often turning to folks who are newly in this position and offering some ideas about what to do, and based on what I could have done better, right? um, but I'm also very much of the opinion that everything leads someplace. Those mistakes that I made have led me to where I am now. As far as my job search went, certain things went very well, but I am really thrilled that I was kind of forced to reevaluate, forced to make the changes that I knew I really needed to make anyway, long term, and continue to learn in the work that I'm doing. Lots of things I can look at and go, "Ooh, I didn't really nail that one." But the lessons that I'm learning, the pivots that we're making, they're all kind of leading to something bigger and better. So yes, I make lots of mistakes, but I don't regret any of them, I think.
Because you're learning from them.
Hmm.
So, for listeners
Big,
who are
well,
going, oh, sorry,
lessons
go ahead.
sometimes. I just said big, uncomfortable lessons sometimes.
For sure, for sure. Thinking about some of the people who might be listening right now, and maybe you're not comfortable with this, but if you are comfortable with this, would you please share maybe one mistake that you feel like you've made, or one thing that you maybe advise people to do differently because of your own experience?
Yeah. So one of the things that I did was I followed. There's a person named Phil Terry who started a program, um, and wrote a book called Never Search Alone.
Oh,
And
okay, I've heard of
I
that.
enrolled in that program, where I was part of a job search council. It's this volunteer organized um, groups that are set up for people who are also seeking work. So you're offering each other moral support. Um, I would definitely recommend to everybody, don't sleep on the networking. Ask people for help. Join groups like that. Um, Make sure that when you leave a job, that you're still trying to take what you can from your personal relationships there. So yeah, when we get laid off, it's very easy to just kind of feel um, like you want to move on, and maybe not um, kind of go back to that well, right? It's moving on and going to the future. But yeah, I would say the networking and kind of closing those loops on the personal relationships from past jobs is something that I wish I would have cultivated more, um, to the degree that I needed to do.
So, do you mean like connecting with those people through social media or keeping in touch with them and having video calls? Is there anything in particular where you feel like you could have done more?
Yeah, I feel like there were a lot of great examples, because there were so many of my peers who were also looking for work, right? One of the things that I see is where people will put out an open call and maybe have a Calendly link where they say, "I'm open for coffees. We can do it by video or we can meet in person. Set something up with me." Um, Also, some people are kind of naturally connectors. Some people kind of naturally keep relationships going over the years. Certainly, I'm sure most of us look at our LinkedIn's and have a number of people we're actually not sure when we met them or in what context, right? Because our careers are long and we accumulate a lot of connections over time, right? Um, it definitely is worthwhile to cultivate those more. Um, I think that there are a lot of things I could have done more of, but I'm also very happy with some of the things that I did do, the people that I reached out to, the people that I engaged with, and leaned on a bit for help for collaboration in the job search. There were so many of us kind of going through the same things, and yeah, I'm thinking about a number of people that I was so glad to connect with and commiserate, and we would share tips. We would also review each other's materials, give one another advice. This is even outside of the Job Search Council. This is with my own connections. So there's a lot of benefit in leveraging the people around you in ways that maybe you aren't thinking of initially.
Yeah, thank you for that. Great points. And our listeners might be considering leaving tech or adding non tech work to what they're already doing. What advice would you give them?
Well, so one of the pieces of advice that I have given freely to a number of my contacts is that, when we are facing kind of lack of opportunities in our career and recognizing that we may have to find a new career altogether. I have noticed that, and I did this myself. You initially start looking to, what am I passionate about?
Right.
What are the things that really get me excited, and then look to go down those paths, right? Um, I would say don't make that your criteria, because the things that have become your passion due to the life you had before may not actually be good work going forward. And don't cut yourself off from developing new passions as well. So, I'm thrilled with the work that I'm doing. It isn't something that I would have kind of come up with on my own. It was an opportunity that presented itself to me. There were enough things that were relevant to me, that were inside of my skill set. I felt very positive about the business partnership, so I moved forward with that. But if I had just kind of relied on the things that I was passionate about, this definitely, probably would not have materialized. And then another kind of aspect of that is I think it's okay to think about the money first, to think about, okay, what industries, what sectors um, are going to kind of expand over time, where there's a need, right? And then kind of a route about for possibilities there as well. So I think people get a little bit flummoxed when they're thinking about kind of the capacity for making the income that they're used to um, in kind of a tangential field to what they were already in, right? Sometimes it's not so easy to just make a little adjustment, a little shift, gain a few skills, and kind of hop over and basically stay on the same path. If you have to completely reimagine, it's okay to think about where the money is, because a lot of us still have kids to put through college, and um, and other responsibilities, economic and otherwise.
Yeah, thanks for that. Really exciting for me to hear some of the things in my Life After Tech book echoed, and you haven't even read it. So great to hear
Mm,
from some like-minded people
right.
on those issues. If people wanted to get in touch with you or follow you or connect with you in some way, where can we find you?
Primarily on LinkedIn and Instagram. So but that's a social media aspect. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. Rising Tide Residences has a page there. If you'd like to go to the URL on the screen, that's certainly a way to kind of see what we're about and get in touch. There's a contact form there as well. We're often looking for volunteers, donations, etc. And it if you know of anyone who is looking for housing in the Bay Area, send them along as well.
Okay, great. Did you want to give the Instagram, or not if it's a personal account necessarily?
Oh, yes, Rising Tide Residences.
Excellent. Okay, and the URL is risingtideresidences.org for people listening to the audio only version. And you'll also be able to find Danielle on the LinkedIn. So we're wrapping up here. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Any last words that you want to give on these topics?
Um, I hope that everyone who is looking to change careers and searching for something after tech is as lucky as I am to find something that really kind of feeds them down in their soul.
Absolutely beautiful. I wish everybody the same as well. Danielle, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Debbie.
It's whatever, and it's never. Is it better?